Do you believe in the forgiveness of sins? Before you answer that question, you need to hear the story of Simon Wiesenthal, who asked himself the same question. Wiesenthal was a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp in 1944. He had watched Nazi soldiers kill his own grandmother in her own home and had eventually become a prisoner himself. At the concentration camp, he was escorted by a nurse to a mysterious room where he entered and she left, and he saw a dying Nazi soldier, terminally wounded, who introduced himself as Karl and said that he needed Simon there because Simon was a Jew. Karl, the Nazi soldier who was dying, went on to confess heinous sins, horrible acts of murdering and killing Jews. He detailed one specific event where his unit had been booby-trapped, and so they retaliated by gathering 300 Jews, forcing them into a 3-story apartment building, dousing it with gasoline, and then launching grenades into the building. As Jewish mothers and fathers jumped from 3rd-story windows with little children in their arms, Nazi soldiers fired on them for target practice. Simon tried to get away, but the Nazi soldier each time would grab his arm and pull him close and tell him another story and confess his sins, not wanting to die with his guilt. When he finally asked for forgiveness, Simon didn't know what to do. He stared out the window, he sat in silence, and then he walked out of the room without saying a word. What would you have done? What is the right thing to do in that situation? Wiesenthal asked himself those questions in the years that followed. He was haunted by his actions, and he actually ended up writing a book about it called The Sunflower. At the end of the day, he had contacted many religious philosophers, religious minds, politicians, leaders, civil rights activists, and of the 32 men and women who responded to him, as he writes in the book, The Sunflower, unanimously they agreed that he did the right thing, that he should not have forgiven this Nazi soldier. So what would you have done? Does forgiveness come with qualifications? Is it for some and not for others? If you commit a small sin, are you forgiven, but not for a big one? Maybe the Holocaust has specific circumstances that make this difficult, but Jesus understood that forgiveness at the end of the day isn't fair. That's what makes it grace. If we need to make forgiveness based on whether it's a small sin or a big one, or a certain person but not another one, aren't we then limiting forgiveness by our own qualifications? And perhaps we might even find ourselves unqualified. Forgiveness must be grace. That means it's not fair, it's not just, and it might even include pain on your part, just like when God forgave us. Read the Bible and find in the Gospels how Jesus forgave others who didn't deserve it, including all of us. And ponder this verse from the Lord's Prayer the next time you say it. Forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us.